Alrighty, welcome back. So we're going to go over the state tax return now that we've finished our federal return. So on the state tax return, as amazing as it may sound, it's twice as long as the federal return. So there's 4 pages on the state return. There's 2 on the federal return. But just with with the federal return, you're going to have line-by-line instructions. So it's going to talk to you about line 1 through 5 in terms of your filing status. This booklet will come through. We will need to do this dependent tax worksheet because somebody has claimed us as a dependent on our federal return. So we'll need to do that as well. Remember that you'll need your W-2. When you get your W-2, you'll get numerous copies, but down here at the bottom is the state information that we will need to fill out. So on your state tax return, you are going to fill in your name up here at the top, first letter of your middle name, your last name, and your Social Security. And for this assignment, we're going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Same as what's on your W-2, same as what was on your federal return that we did previously. So have your federal return handy because you're going to need that information along with your W-2 to complete the state return. So your street address, once again, it was 123 Elm Street. That was going to be anywhere, California. Zip code was going to be 23456. Date of birth, go ahead and just put 1/1. Most of you were born probably in the year 2002. So just put 1/1/2002 as your date of birth. This section here is a prior name, spouse's name, if you had your name changed. Filing status is going to be down the middle of the first page. So if your filing status is different from your federal filing status, check this box here. We're going to leave that blank because we are filing single here. So we're going to put that right there. And then down at the bottom of the first page is where we talk about whether somebody claims us as a dependent or not. If another person can claim you or your spouse as a dependent on his or her tax return, even if she chooses not to do so, he or she chooses not to do so, you must see the instructions. So we are going to need to put a check here, and then it will inform you to go through the instructions. So on line 6, it says, can someone claim you as a dependent? If someone else can claim you as a dependent in the instructions, even if they choose not to do so, your total income is less the following amounts based on your filing status or you have a dependent. So single is $14,551. So that is the amount that we will need to remember when we go to do our dependent worksheet for the state return. Turning it over, on the state return on page 2, you're going to need to enter your name again at the top. That'll be at the top of every page of the state return. Social Security number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then this is where it is going to be different than the federal return. On your W-2, remember that we had state amounts down here at the bottom where the federal amounts were up here at the top. So the state amounts down here, you see our state wages, our state income tax withheld, local wages and tips. Some states in the United States have a local income tax, and that's mostly found in the East and the Midwest. So our total wages, it's going to tell you, see box 16 on your W-2. Box 16 is $50,000. That means that we are going to transfer that amount to box 9 on the state return. So you're going to put in $50,000 right there on that second page. Line 10 is total interest income from box 1099 INT. This would be a box on the 1099 INT form that you would get. We're not going to have any of that for this. Total dividend in form is 1099 DIV. We don't have that form. Total pension income, generally if you're retired, that's going to be 0 as well. And then line 13, total capital gains distributions from mutual funds. This would be box 2A on your 1099 dividend form. We don't have any to report for that year, so that's going to be 0 there. Line 16, add line 9, line 10, line 11, line 12, and line 13. That is going to be $50,000 that you put right there. On 17, this is where we're going to go to our booklet. It's asking, using the 2EZ table for your filing status, enter the tax for the amount on line 16. Caution, if you check the box on line 6, stop. You need to see the instructions for completing the dependent tax worksheet. So in the packet that I attached to the Go Formative is a dependent tax worksheet that you can see right here. So on your dependent tax worksheet, it asks you, using the amount from form 540 2EZ line 16. So you need to go back to line 16, which is right there. It says, your filing status, enter the tax from the 2EZ table. So if your filing status is single, go to page 39. So using that amount, 50,000, just like we did for the federal tax return, we are going to look up the tax that we have. Now, the state tax table is a little bit different than the federal. You see, if your income is at least but not over, and then it asks about the number of dependents. So it doesn't really talk about single versus married or head of household. The tables are separated by the state. So you need to find the single tables if you're filing single. So our income was 50,000. That means at least 49,952, but less than 50,051. That is the tax there. We have 0 dependents, so we come down, and the tax that we should have paid is $1,513. So that means that we're going to go back to our worksheet for dependents and put in that tax amount into this box right here. So line 1 on your dependent tax worksheet, you're going to put the amount of $1,513, as that was the tax that we should have put in. So line 2 says, if single or head of household, enter $118, right? So we're going to enter in $118 there. And then they ask you to add line 1 and line 2, enter that here and include it on line 17 of your state return. So $1,513 plus $118 by my math is $1,631. That number there, we are then going to put and transfer, because they tell us in the dependent tax worksheet to put on line 17. So on line 17, I'm going to transfer that amount, which is $1,631 from that worksheet. As we continue on, line 18 asks about senior exemptions. That's 65 and older. It gives you an amount to enter in there. We're going to put 0. Non-refundable renter's credit, we are going to put 0. On the credits, it asks you to add line 18 and 19, which is going to be 0. And then subtract line 20. Line 20 is 0. Subtracted from line 17 is going to be 1631. So we'll put that information there. Now, line 22, total tax withheld. Once again, you will reference your W-2. You can see that our federal income tax withheld is up at the top. State income tax withheld is down at the bottom, so make sure that you use what's down here at the bottom. It'll say state income tax. Up here it'll say federal. We're doing the state return, so we need this amount here. We had $1,535 withheld throughout the year. So it tells us on box 17 to enter in that amount. It is $1,535. Then in earned income tax credit, a special situation. Most of you will put 0 there. Add your total payments would be $1,535. Now, as we get to the bottom of page 2 of the state return, there's a use tax in this state. And a use tax is basically the state of California trying to collect tax money from items bought out of the state. So if you read the directions for line 25, it says you're required to enter a number on this line. If the amount due is 0, you must check the applicable box to indicate that you either owe no use tax or you paid the use tax obligation directly to the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration. So a couple of things here in terms of what this is. So example, you purchased a television for $2,000 from an out-of-state retailer that did not collect tax. You must use the use tax worksheet to calculate the tax due on the price of the television, since the price of the television is $1,000 or more. There's another example of about a computer. So basically, it's the state of California making sure that you pay sales tax on items that you bought out of state. So some states have different sales tax rules. There's no sales tax on food in this state, but there are in other states. In the state of Minnesota, they don't pay sales tax on clothes, but we do pay those items here. So basically, we are going to put 0 here because we have nothing to claim, and we're going to mark no use tax is owed, and you have to fill that out or your tax return from the state will not be accepted. So overpaid tax or tax due are lines 26 through 29. Now, we know that our tax due is $1,631 based on our filing status and the amount that we were required to look up on the tax table. We only put in $1,535. So we know we're going to owe some money to the state. Payment balance. If 24 is more than 25, subtract 25 from 24. So when you look at that, 24 is more than 25, so we're going to subtract 0 from 1,535, and that gives us 1,535 that we put there. Your use tax balance, if 25 is more than 24, subtract 24 from 25. We don't have to do that, as 25 is not more than 24. Overpaid tax. If 26 is more than 21, this is the amount that you paid and you would get a refund. We're going to leave that blank because 24 is less, right? And 26 is less than 21. We know that we owe. So it says if 26 is less than 21, which it is, we are going to subtract 26 from 21. So $1,631 minus $1,535 looks to be $96 that we are going to owe the state of California. That means we can move on to page 3. Page 3 is going to be a list of all of the contributions that you can make, from state parks to the oceans to arts to diabetes research, the YMCA. We already owe tax, so I'm going to put 0. I'm not going to feel very charitable here. Remember that in each page you had to fill in your name up at the top again, along with your social security number, so I'm doing that there. And then you're going to need to enter in any of the amounts that you want here. I'm going to go ahead and enter 0 all the way down. And down at line 30, I'll show you that in just a second as soon as I'm done filling in the zeros, they're going to ask you to total all of the extra contributions that you want to make to the state. So on line 30 here, it says add amounts in code 400 through 443, which is all of these here, and that is going to be 0. So I'm going to turn it over to the last page. Last page up again at the top, you need to put your name. So I'm going to put my name up here at the top, my social security number, and then amount you owe. So add 27, 29, and 30. So when we add 27, that's 0. 29 is $96. 30 is 0. So 0 plus 96 plus 0 is $96. This is the amount that we owe to the Franchise Tax Board for the state. So we are going to have to send them a check. This would be the line in the box of information here. If you were getting a refund, you would also fill out, just like you did with the federal return, your routing number, your account number, and the amount that you want deposited there. Just as with the federal return, your return will not be accepted if you don't sign it, so you need to sign your signature. Today's date is 3/2020. Your spouse would need to sign there. The state wants your email address, so I'm going to go ahead and put my email address down. If you paid somebody to do your tax return, that information would be there. Now, just as with the federal return, you're going to take a copy of the W-2 and you're going to staple it in the middle here. On top of that, you would put a check in the amount of $96 to the Franchise Tax Board. So the checks would be made out to Franchise Tax Board, and you are going to send that in the mail to that P.O. Box, 942-867, Sacramento, California, 94267. When you have that check made out, you would staple that again on top of the W-2, which was stapled on top of the return, put that in the mail, and you would be finished. So that is how you do a state of California income tax return. Let me know if you have any questions. We'll talk to you soon.